Hey stats class, I'm going to go over how to use Desmos in this video to find correlation and to create scatter plots like this. So when you are asked to make a scatter plot, find the data. Typically it'll be either in one of these blue links or sometimes it'll be just right on the screen. But you should see this little box here that allows you to copy the data. So I'm going to click that, tell it to open, copy to clipboard. I just copy it, Control C, Command C, and then go to Desmos and dump that in there. Control V, Command V. All right, and there's the data set. All right, now one of the things that you can do, let me just kind of scroll down my view a little bit so you can see the X labels down here on the axis. If what you're seeing on the screen, these numbers, if it doesn't match what you're seeing on Desmos, like this is 80, 100, 120, 140, so 80 and 140. This is like 50 to 70 left to right. So if you're not seeing those numbers, you can make it be those numbers. You can decide what the left to right numbers are, what the up and down numbers are. So first of all, I'm seeing 90 to 140 as options, 52 to 68 as options for the other ones. So when I look at this and I see 50 and 70, I know it's not going to be these 90 to 140s. So they've been eliminated. So 52 to 68 are the X numbers. So I can click on the wrench tool up here and make the X's go between 52. I just type it in there, tab 68. All right, and now I have that as my X labels down there. All right, you can also, if you count the little tick marks in between there, there's 8 of these tick marks on the axis between 52 and 68. So if you just go into Desmos and subtract 68 minus 52 divided by those 8 tick marks, that means each tick mark is 2. And that on the wrench tool here, that's the step size for the x-axis. So if I make that 2, now that would make all the tick marks match up with what I'm seeing there. All right, and then I could do the same thing on the y-axis. I can make the y's go between 90 and 140. So they're already pretty close to that, but I can make it be exactly what I'm seeing on the screen. All right, and then that'll make it easier to kind of match the scatter plot that you're seeing. So I see that. You can make these points bigger, hold this down. You can make the points, right now it's set to 8, so I could double their size roughly, make it about 15, and I can easily see now that that matches this plot over here. Okay, because it has the right X and Y numbers and it has the right pattern of the points that I'm seeing. Okay, so that's the way I could use that part with Desmos. All right, now, how do I find correlation, R? Well, there's a couple ways to do it. An easy way to do it is just to type in CORR and then tell it where your data is. So it's up here, X1 are my X's, Y1 are my Y's. So just type in X1, comma, Y1. All right, and there's the correlation value that I get. 0.0679 roughly is my correlation. So that's what they're getting. 3 places, 0.68. And then the other way, another very easy way to get correlation is over here. Let me again move this over a little so you can see it better. There's this little button right here that says add regression. This is more of the next section. But if I click that button, it puts this equation, this line through the data, and then it gives me the value of R right there. So there's R, that's the correlation value. So it gives it there. It also gives R squared. That's something, again, that'll be in the next section. All right, and you look through your notes this week, you'll talk about what the correlation value is. That's a very low correlation score. The closer an absolute value correlation is to 1, then the stronger the correlation. So we don't have very strong correlation here because that number is very close to 0. And then when you get down to this, the critical value. So what you need for that, this is a hypothesis test that you're doing here. You're going to look at these table of critical values. So you're going to click that. It's going to pop it up. And based on how many data points we have, right, and which is 8, we're going to find in here, there's 8. and then at the different critical values that they tell you. So if you scroll down here on that question, that alpha be 0.01. So I'm looking where n equals 8. I'm looking in the 0.01 column, and there's that critical value that we're seeing. So that means that I'm comparing I'm comparing R to this number. If R is bigger than this number in absolute value, so if it's 0.835 or bigger, then there is correlation in the population. But ours is, again, very small. It's virtually zero. So there's no correlation based on that hypothesis test. All right, let's do one more just to make sure we got it. I'm going to click here to get the table. Click the button here to copy to the clipboard. Control C. All right, take it to Desmos. I'm going to clear out everything that I have in here in Desmos. I'm just going to click X there. Click back into the cell, Control V to paste it. It automatically zooms around it. There's my data set. I can click this button. That'll add a line to it. That's going to be important in the next section. But for now, this is what's important. It gives me this value of correlation. Okay, so that's the number I'm looking for. I can also get it with CORR, X1, Y1. I'm using X1 and Y1 because that's the headers of my table. Sometimes if you've already got data in there, it might say X2, Y2. All right, and notice now if I scroll down, it doesn't know what that is. So you've got to make sure that whatever you type in there matches your table values that Desmos produces. All right, once it does, you'll have those values, and you'll see those numbers match up with what you're seeing there for those answers. All right, this time, that again, it's a negative number, but I'm going to compare it to this number down here in absolute value. So alpha is 0.01. This time I have 12. So when I click on the table, I'm looking for 12 for n. So I'm going to scroll down a little further. There's 12.01. I'm looking where they meet. So 0.0708. So I want R in absolute value to be greater than this. Now, when it's negative, it's not going to be greater than this because negative numbers are never above positive numbers. But again, remove the negative. Just think of it as just 0.927. That's bigger than 0.708. So we would say that this does have a sufficient evidence for a correlation in the population.